Good Wednesday morning. And Constance and I are just back from a little trip to Trader Joe's. I'm still half bundled up here. It's rather chilly still. Uh, as you can see, I am wearing my Scottish Rite Mason baseball cap. Believe it or not, when I wear it, sometimes at the coffee shop, other Scottish Rite Masons strike up a conversation and are perfectly lovely people to talk to. Uh, the reason I'm wearing this is because I just got my new edition of the Scottish Rite Journal, okay, which I get, I guess, pretty much every month. Yeah. Uh, but it's got a beautiful, beautiful photograph of an Egyptian-esque stage area. And it really exists. This is not a imaginary thing or an AI generated thing. This is a photograph of one of the most beautiful Scottish Rite auditoriums, I guess we'd say, in the world. Okay. And when it came, I was because I've been here. I've been to this very place. This is in Guthrie, Oklahoma, and the article is called "The Gift of Guthrie." This is in one of the most magnificent buildings, Masonic structures in the world. And I'm going to share a story that I told Constance day before yesterday when this arrived, because it has photographs and I can point here and there where, and then I did this over here and like this. I didn't say anything secret or anything, and I'm not going to tell you anything secret now either. But way back in 2010, my good friend and Masonic brother, Mark Stavish, wrote a marvelous book, which I hope you will, if you're interested in this stuff. It's called Freemasonry, Ritual, Symbols, and the History of the Secret Society. It's an excellent book. And publisher's Destiny Books. And he asked me to write a foreword to it. And this was the 2007 edition that I did. And I wrote just a brief thing that I've shared with you on many occasions before. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but to set up what I'm going to tell you about what the story I told Constance, it'll be good if you hear this. So it's 4 a.m. I creep quietly past the rooms of my sleeping brothers and out to the darkened hallway that leads to the staircase to the atrium. The atrium is a cavernous space nearly 200 feet long and over 50 feet wide, built in the style of the Roman Empire. And I'll show you a picture in a minute. The marble floor is adorned with Masonic symbols inlaid in brass and stone of contrasting colors. The Doric and Ionic columns that flank the Great Hall and support second-story walkways and chambers are dwarfed by towering Corinthian columns that buttress the vaulted ceiling 3 stories high, whose centerpiece stained glass skylight now bathes the room in soft iridescent moonlight. There are 5 statues here whose bronze presences I'm moved to honor. There are 4 goddess figures of the cardinal virtues: temperance, prudence, fortitude, and justice. They are positioned in the corners of the room, and I'll also show you a picture of that. which I slowly circumambulate as I move from pedestal to pedestal. The fifth goddess stands in the very center of the hall and bears no inscription or emblem. She simply holds her forefinger to her lips as if to hush the universe. It is here at the feet of silence I sit down on the cool floor and close my eyes. In only a minute, it seems, I hear a warm ring of a temple bell. The others are awake and we're being called to dawn meditation. I slip off my shoes outside the door of the lodge room and tiptoe inside and take my seat. The room is dark except for a single candle in the center altar. After a few quiet words of introduction and instruction, we close our eyes and enter our inner temples. 40 minutes later, the sun has arisen. We open our eyes and see the room brilliantly illuminated by 3 large Italian stained glass panels that we now see forms the entire southern wall of the lodge room. Each window dramatically depicts one of the 3 ages of man: youth, manhood, and old age. My eyes linger on each scene in turn as I weigh the well-lived episodes of my life against those of time misspent. After breakfast, we gather beneath the chandeliers of Czechoslovakian crystal in the spacious reception room and for the first time see who has come this year. I immediately recognize some of the brightest stars in the firmament of modern masonry. I also see friends and colleagues from years past, writers, scholars, teachers, and students. As always, there are several brothers who have been invited there for the first time to present papers and lecture. We're met for 3 days of presentation and discussions of issues and subjects relating to esoteric aspects of the craft of masonry. We've gathered secretly. Now, remember, I wrote this first in 2007. So we've gathered secretly and informally, under no official warrant, charter, or auspices, to explore the craft as a self-transformational art and science. Gathered to labor and strategize how best to proceed to protect, preserve, and advance the esoteric soul of Freemasonry. Appropriately, the venue for this gathering is one of the largest and most architecturally magnificent Masonic edifices in the world. And I can tell you right now, it was this Guthrie Temple, or this headquarters, Masonic Center. It was unexplainably abandoned, because it takes a crew to maintain the place. Unexplainably abandoned by its usual team of custodial stewards for the duration of our meetings. The building itself is intoxicating. We're all humbled by its beauty and perfection and its perfect proportions. One cannot resist being tangibly elevated as we each intuitively attempt to adjust our inner imperfections to reflect the outer perfections of sacred geometry all around us. As we walk the sacred labyrinth or sit quietly studying in the Gothic library, I'll show you little pictures of those, or muse upon alchemy at the feet of Assyrian sphinxes, we find ourselves pausing and asking each other, is this really happening? Yes, it really happens. And this is how I always dreamed Masonry would be. Okay, now, I'm sure you've probably heard that before, and if you have the book Allow Me to Introduce, or Brother Stavish's wonderful book. You've already read it. But that's just a setup, because when Constance saw this, she thought it was quite beautiful, and I'm going to hold it there. Now that is what they call a fly in theater, and that's Scottish Rite degrees, and they do all of them. They do all of them at the Guthrie Center. They're not lodge room kind of initiation ceremonies. They're pageants, like the Eleusinian Mysteries. They're theater things. Occasionally you do go up on stage yourself, but mostly you're vicariously thrilled by the drama taking place in front of you. But let me go back. I was speaking in New York City about, I don't know what it was about, the tarot ceremonial magic, or maybe the chicken Kabbalah. And it was in a small theater, an off-Broadway theater building. So it wasn't just OTO members or magicians. It was a kind of a public lecture. And afterwards, I was approached by a man that said, "Have you ever lectured for Freemasons?" Because I mentioned that I was a Scottish Rite Mason and a Blue Lodge Mason. He says, "Have you ever spoke in front of a group of Esoteric Masons?" And I said, no, I haven't. And he said, "Well, would you be interested in doing that if you received an invitation?" And I said, "Oh, sure, I'd love to do that." Well, it was at least a year later before I was contacted by them and said, "We'd like you to, if you're free on such and such dates, we'd like you to come to Guthrie, Oklahoma, to deliver a speech." And says it's just for a private kind of an unofficial group, but we meet quite regularly and we'd like to have you present a paper. And I was just absolutely honored and thrilled and a bit scared, because these are grown-ups, and but there's a wonderful OTO lodge in Oklahoma City, and I visited there several times and stayed with the lodge master, and I've always had a good time in Oklahoma City OTO lodge. And so I checked with them to see if maybe we could coordinate like a 5-day visit. I'd stay with them for a day, and then they would drive me up to Guthrie, and then they'd pick me up and bring me back. And when the 3-day weekend was over, and coordinated it like that. It was just a lovely time, and we ended up doing it several years in a row. But I just want to tell you about the first one, because I didn't know exactly what I was getting into. Yeah, I trust Masonic brothers, and it wasn't like I was worried about getting kidnapped, raped, and eaten. but I was, and it was sort of intimidating, and I worked hard on my presentation because it was a that's what they do there. They gather from around the world, and my hosts, my OTO hosts, drove me up. It's a beautiful, beautiful drive from Oklahoma City to Guthrie, and and I thought I was arriving on time, but obviously I was mistaken uh, because this is the building we drove up to in Guthrie. Now, Guthrie's a little town, okay, like 10,000 people, but it's a Scottish Rite town. It used to be for a short time the capital city of Oklahoma. Now, that's what we drove up to, okay? And it was starting to get dark. And I walked up the stairs, up the steps, and the doors were sealed tight. And it was an impressive, it dominates the entire block. It's like in the middle of a park. So my OTO brothers drove me around the thing, and I was looking for another entrance to the place, and now I'm worried, oh, I'm late, and that's bad form, and I don't even know how to get in, and I pounded on the front door before I gave up, and there was no answer. And as we were circling around for the second time, okay, we circled around the back of it, and as we were coming around over here, there on the side of the building was a large, like a garage door, like an industrial-sized garage door. You could drive a truck through that door. Obviously, it was for, deliveries of large things. And I saw the door go up. And I said, stop, stop, stop. The door went all the way up, and I grabbed my suitcase, and I said, I'm going to try to get in through the side door. And the door came up, and a big truck pulled out, and it was a delivery truck of some kind. And before the door sort of automatically came down, I asked the driver, how do can I get in here, And he says, oh yeah, just keep walking. And, I'm thinking that all of this is, there's a magical, mystical dimension behind everything. So I'm interpreting everything like okay, the initiation has begun, my son, kind of thing. And so I walk through the door closes behind me. And before it closes, I could see, I couldn't see the end of this long, wide hall. It looked very industrial, okay, nothing fancy about it. But when the door came down, it was pitch black. And I had my little black suitcase behind me, dragging it behind me, going on the pavement. And I just kept walking. And I walked and I walked and I walked. You know, it seemed, I'm sure, much longer than it actually was, but when it's pitch black, literally could not see the hand in front of my face. And every once in a while, I had to sort of put my hand against the wall just to make sure I wasn't walking in circles. And finally, up ahead and to the right, I saw a little light on the floor. The floor was starting to become illuminated, so I was getting to a place where there was a light. And as I got closer to it, I could see that I was coming up on what looked like a kitchen or a lunch room thing. It was a kitchen, a large kitchen, but it had tables and things on it. And toward the one end of the thing, I could see it led to another area where there was simple steps. Okay, then the steps go up and then turn right and go up again. And when I walked up to that next level, I found myself standing, standing right here at this building right here. It was dark though. This is the building I talked about where I sat down and meditated before. Okay, and that black thing right there is that statue of the goddess of silence. Okay, but I could see good enough because it was still sort of twilight outside, and all the light was coming in from up there, okay, from that skylight type thing. And those are the pillars I was talking about, and there's the Corinthian ones in the back there. It was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Look at that chandelier up there. And the floor is inlaid with all of those Masonic symbols and stuff. I mean, this was can you imagine coming out of that darkness, that dark walk, and coming up here? And I walked over here. Those the four other goddesses are in the corners here, but I walked up to this, the one that was going like this, and I yelled, "Is anybody here?" and it echoed in that huge atrium, and there was no answer. I got no answer at all, and so I walked all the way to the end here, and there were another set of steps. Now on both sides here. Okay, this is a second. I wish I could. Okay, this is the second story, and all along the walkways here and here, okay, are other rooms, other temples, other lodge rooms. There's with the Assyrian sphinxes in one of them, and a beautiful blue, like a blue lodge room, and other rooms. And I as I walked along as I walked along here, I poked my head in each of those rooms and just was blown away. But I was panicking, kind of, because I was carrying my suitcase and back and everything. So I walked all the way back in this direction, and I could hear something. I could hear voices. And so all the way toward the end here, okay, I turned and went in, and I found myself, let's see if I can talk amongst yourselves. I found myself right here in that balcony overlooking this temple with all that Egyptian-esque thing, the big winged solar disk, and there standing talking to a small group of brothers was my friend Sam Webster. And so I knew I had found where I should be, but I don't know how to get there. And Sam was doing some opening remarks. It wasn't he'd be presenting his paper later, but people were introducing themselves. And so, in a sense, I was right on time, but I was one story above everybody. And and I interrupted Sam and said, "How do I get down there?" And everybody turns around, and Sam goes, "Lon Milo DuQuette," and everybody giggles, and they say, "Welcome, Brother DuQuette," and everything, and then they tell me how to get back down there and do it. Years later, the organizer said, when we met again, says, "The first time I met you, you were in the balcony of the Egyptian temple saying, 'How do I get down there?'" But anyway, I'm going to share a couple other little pictures there. This is the library. Okay, this is the Harry Potter library. Okay, and there's books in there too. It's good shit. Okay, that's a good picture of that. Now, and here is where we presented our lectures. Okay, and anyways, there are other pictures here. Maybe not, other than the cover itself. In my opinion, those few years where we all met together in an informal way, in my life anyway, was like the golden age of my esoteric Masonic experience. I met lots of good friends there, lots of occultists who were also Freemasons, and the lectures were just absolutely amazing. And the meditative end of it was wonderful too. And because the facilities are so huge, it is like also sort of like a giant hotel. Because in the 1920s and 30s, over 200 Masons would attend their 3-day trip through all of the degrees of the Scottish Rite, which is a major theatrical event. And so everybody has a room. You feel sort of like a cozy monk. You have a room of your own with a little bath of your own, and pretty much nothing to do but surround yourself with this incredible array of architectural, Masonic classic architecture and talk about esoteric stuff, magic and Kabbalah, Rosicrucianism. So for me, that was sort of the golden age of my Scottish Rite experience, and I'm happy to share it with you. I don't know if for some reason or other we discontinued after 3 or 4 of them, and but it was sure good while it lasted, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do that. But anyway, that's it for today. I shared that story with Constance, and I thought you'd enjoy it too. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love's the law. Love under will.